I didn't ask for a transfer. In fact, I just renewed my position at Olympic National Park when the call came through. No caller ID, just static and a clipped voice that said, "Pack a bag. You've been reassigned. Zone 6. No explanation. No formal paperwork. Just a GPS coordinate that didn't match any public map. And a single follow-up message in my inbox when I checked it later that night. Don't share this. No one will believe you anyway." The next morning, a government SUV picked me up. No markings. No plates. The driver never spoke. Just handed me a folder with a map and dropped me near the base of a mountain range no one ever mentioned in orientation. No trails. No markers. Just endless pine and fog, like the world ran out of color and forgot it was supposed to keep going. At the end of a gravel path sat a tiny ranger station. Old. Dusty. Pre-digital. The kind of place where clocks tick too loudly, and the lights hum like they're tired of being on. Inside was a cot. A desk. A shortwave radio. And a single locker labeled with my name, even though I'd never been here before. Inside the locker? A green uniform that fit exactly right. A journal. And a typed page clipped to the door. "Welcome to Zone 6. Observe. Record. Stay alive." And at the bottom, handwritten in smudged pencil, "They don't care if you're a ranger. They care if you're respectful." That night, after my first patrol, nothing unusual except the unnatural stillness, I sat at the desk and opened the journal left for me. No entries. Just a folded piece of yellowed paper tucked inside the front cover, marked with grease stains and water damage like it had been carried through too much. Typed in uppercase, but with multiple fonts, as if compiled from different sources. Zone 6. Personal Conduct Protocol. 1. If the trees shift between patrols, say nothing. Face forward. Walk with purpose. They only mirror hesitation. 2. Do not respond to your name after midnight. Even if it's your voice calling. 3. If you hear whistling, stop. If it changes key, lie down. Face down. Wait. 4. Trail 7 does not exist. If you find it, you're already off course. Let it lead you back. Do not enter the cabin. 5. If the creek water smells sweet, do not touch it. Avoid reflection. Look only at the bank. 6. You will see other rangers. Some will look like you. Wave. Do not speak. 7. The burn clearing is not your memory. If you wake up there, remain still until dawn. 8. The station radio may transmit messages from dead rangers. Do not reply. Do not write them down. 9. You may see a visitor with no shadow. Offer no assistance. Log the encounter and move on. 10. The forest is older than language. Your instincts will betray you before it does. At the bottom, scrawled in dark pencil, a final line. The forest knows the difference between patrol and trespass. I stared at the list until the lantern burned low. Outside, the trees didn't move. But the air changed. Heavier. As if something just finished reading over my shoulder and wanted to see what I'd do next. My second morning began like any other ranger's shift. Mist hung low between the trees like it was afraid to rise. Birdsong was absent. Even the bugs were quiet, which should have been a blessing, but here, just felt wrong. I set out to check markers 3 through 6, a simple loop I'd already memorized. 20 minutes in, something felt off. The trail bent left when I clearly remembered it going right. At first, I chalked it up to bad sleep, wrong boots, forest disorientation. But then I saw my own boot prints going the other direction, fresh ones. Same tread. Same weight. They led back the way I'd come. Only, I hadn't turned around. I pushed on. Half an hour later, I passed a tree marked with a slash of red bark. Unmistakable. I'd passed it already that morning. This was a loop I hadn't made. I checked my compass. It spun once, then stopped. Dead north, it said. But north was now behind me. That night, I returned to the station and flipped through the back pages of the journal. Found a single scribbled note tucked beneath a blank log page. The trees remember your rhythm. If you get lost, change your pace. If you're being followed, stop walking like yourself. I went back the next morning. Different stride. Longer steps. No patterns. And this time, the trees didn't move. But I noticed something else. At marker 5, 2 tree trunks had grown into one, twisted together like a braid. In the bark, scratched crudely but unmistakably. Keep to the trail, Ranger 39. I'm Ranger 41. There was no Ranger 40 on record. I logged it as wildlife interference. But the logbook entry rewrote itself overnight. Ranger observed. Pattern adjusted. Proceeding accordingly. It was my 5th day when the missing hiker was reported. A tourist, mid-30s, solo trip, last seen near the South Ridge before the trail turned swampy. The report came in late, but the radio buzzed like it was expecting me. Check the creek bend past marker 12. Trust your nose. A voice I didn't recognize. The message wasn't signed. I followed the ridge trail until the air shifted. Cooler. Fresher. Like a perfume made from sugar and crushed wildflowers. And then I smelled it. Sweetness. Not rot. Not algae. Honeysuckle and vanilla, strong enough to make me dizzy. And just ahead, a shallow creek. Silent. Glass smooth. And utterly, perfectly reflective. I crouched beside it, trying to see below the surface. But there was no bottom. Just sky. Too much sky. More stars than any daytime sky should hold. And they moved. Flickering not with wind, but with intention. Then something rippled the surface, from below, and I heard it. My voice. Hey! You dropped something. I didn't drop anything. I didn't speak. But the voice from the water? Exactly mine. Tone. Breath. Rhythm. Familiar in a way that makes your stomach twist. I backed up slowly. Didn't turn around. Didn't blink. Just walked backward across the moss until the scent disappeared. Back at the station, I scanned the journal. Found Rule 5 again. If the creek smells sweet, do not touch it. Avoid reflection. Look only at the bank. If it speaks in your voice, it's trying to remember what it felt like to be you. That night, I dreamed of floating. Weightless. Drifting in water that reflected memories I haven't lived yet. And from deep beneath me, I heard that same voice whisper. Come back. You're almost ready. Trail 7 doesn't exist. That's what they told me. That's what the map doesn't show. That's what the rules repeat. If you find Trail 7, you're already off course. Let it lead you back. Do not enter the cabin. But on the 7th day, while detouring around a fallen tree, I noticed something strange in the dirt. A signpost. Rotted wood. Half buried. Etched with a number I shouldn't have seen. 7. The air beyond it felt thicker. Not dangerous. Expectant. I stepped forward, 1 foot off the known path. The birds didn't scatter. The wind didn't move. But the moss grew quieter. And there it was. Just 100 feet ahead. A log cabin, nestled between pines that leaned in too far, like they were shielding it from the sky. Windows boarded from the inside. Chimney cold. And a lantern glowing on the porch, even though the sun was still high. I stood at the edge of the clearing. Didn't move. Didn't breathe too loud. And then the door creaked, just slightly, open. Not a welcome. A test. I didn't enter. I remembered the rule. I backed away. Slow. Steady. Eyes down. As I returned to the trail, I heard it. A voice. Raspy. Familiar. You're the first one to hesitate. Back at the station, I logged the incident as natural structure found, location unstable. But that night, I found a note tucked under my pillow. Scrawled in tight, angular print on weather-stained paper. Trail 7 is not for walking. It's for remembering. And you're close now. On my 10th night in Zone 6, I woke up at exactly 2:41 a.m. No alarm. No nightmare. Just the sound. A whistle. Soft. Drawn out. 4 notes. Low, high, high, low, repeated in perfect rhythm every 10 seconds. At first I thought it was wind. Then maybe an owl. But it wasn't either. Because as I sat up in bed, the whistle changed. It matched the pace of my breathing. And then, it paused. Waited. And mimicked the exact sound of my exhale. I didn't turn on the light. Didn't open the blinds. I remembered something one of the senior rangers had said during training. You'll hear whistling at night. Don't whistle back. And if the key changes, freeze. That's the only thing that might save you. The sound continued for 7 minutes straight. Then it shifted. Same rhythm, but now 1 note lower. Minor key. The air in the cabin got tight. The lantern flickered, even though I hadn't lit it. And from the treeline outside, I heard something moving. Not walking. Gliding. Something that didn't need feet to make the pine needles crunch. I lay back down. Face up. Eyes closed. Let my breathing go slow and shallow. The whistling moved past the window. Closer to the door. Then stopped. What followed wasn't a knock. It was a breath. Through the keyhole. Sharp. Cold. And then a note I'll never forget. My name. Whistled in reverse. It left by 3:13. And I didn't move until the sun bled through the blinds. In the morning, a new line had been added to the rules sheet. Same paper. Same typewriter ink. Different hand. If they start singing in your voice, you've been noticed. Stay quiet for 3 nights. Do not dream of music. On the 11th day, I saw myself. I was doing a morning patrol, heading west toward the high ridge. Clear skies, nothing unusual, until I rounded a bend on the old firebreak trail and stopped cold. There was someone ahead. Same uniform. Same gear. Same exact stride. I couldn't see the face, but everything else? Me. I called out, stupid, I know now. Hey! You on shift? The figure paused. Tilted its head, not like it was confused. Like it was listening. Then turned around. I took a step back without thinking. It had my face. But not perfectly. Too smooth. Too symmetrical. Like a 3D rendering that hadn't fully loaded. And the eyes were just skin. It didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. Then turned and walked into the trees, straight through a wall of dense brush without disturbing a single branch. I ran up to where it had been. No footprints. No broken twigs. But where it had stood was a scrap of fabric. Torn from a sleeve. Same patch as mine. Same unit number. Except Unit 40. Again. That night I didn't sleep. I sat at the desk, staring at my own reflection in the dark window, half expecting it to start moving without me. In the middle of the night, I checked the mirror above the sink. Carved into the metal backing, so faint I almost missed it. Imitation is permission. If you talk to it, it learns more. In the morning, the patrol log had a new entry. Typed. Initialed R40. Patrol complete. Ranger 41 observed. Movement satisfactory. Will continue adapting. It was day 13 when a knock came at the ranger station door. Rare. Unusual. I opened it to find a man standing outside, maybe early 30s, hiking gear, clean, polite. His trail permit was filled out correctly, though the paper looked older than it should have been. Slightly yellowed. Smelled faintly of pine tar and ink. He smiled. Sorry, signal's dead out there. Just logging in before I head out. I nodded, handed him a clipboard. He wrote his name. Daniel Mercer. Signed the visitor log. Logged his entry time. No destination. No return date. He stayed for maybe 15 minutes. Drank coffee. Talked about the weather. Said he'd hiked up from the valley, though there's no trail from the south anymore. The whole time. I felt it. That crawling feeling you get when someone's staring at you without their eyes. At one point I glanced down. No shadow. None. Not under his boots. Not from the cup he held. Nothing. I blinked, and he was gone. I didn't see him leave. Didn't hear the door open. No footsteps outside. But the coffee mug was still on the counter. Still warm. And there was a single drop of water beside it that wouldn't evaporate. I opened the logbook. His name was gone. The line he'd written on? Blank. Like no pen had ever touched it. But the next page? Someone had scribbled something in the bottom corner, upside down. Guests like him aren't visitors. They're reminders. That night, I dreamed I was still in the station. Except the mug wasn't on the counter anymore, it was in my hand, and someone else was sitting in my chair, logging my name into the book over and over again. Only they didn't stop at Ranger. They wrote Ranger. Copy. Visitor. Echo. Placeholder. In the morning, the mug was gone. But on the window above my desk, written into the condensation, "You're warmer now. He likes that." It wasn't on any map. Wasn't mentioned in the rules. But every ranger I'd spoken to, the ones who left Zone 6 early, the ones who drank a little too much when the radios went dead, they all said the same thing. If you find the clearing, don't move. It was dusk on day 14 when I stumbled into it. 1 minute I was tracking elk scat, and the next, everything went dead silent. Not quiet. Dead. No wind. No insects. Even my own footsteps stopped making noise, like the ground forgot how to echo. And then I looked up. I stood at the edge of a wide circular clearing. Maybe 40 feet across. No trees. No shrubs. Not even moss. Just black soil. Dry. Cracked. And somehow smoking, though there hadn't been a fire in months. In the center, something charred, barely visible. Like the remains of a cabin, or a bed. I stepped forward, instinct, curiosity, mistake. The moment my boot crossed the blackened line, the sky changed. Not darker. Deeper. Like it remembered being on fire and hadn't forgiven the light yet. I turned to leave. But the forest wasn't there. Where the tree line had been, there was now just more clearing. As if the boundary was shifting around me. Or worse. Watching. I dropped to my knees. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. And waited. The rule came back to me then. Not from the paper. From somewhere else. A whisper I didn't hear with my ears. If you wake up in the burnt place, stay still until dawn. Only I hadn't woken up here. Not this time. But it felt familiar. And in the dust near my foot, I saw something half buried. A ranger badge. Half melted. Tag still readable. Miller. Ranger 36. The one who went north. The one no one found. Until now. The sun rose slow and heavy that morning. And with the light, the trees returned. I backed out of the clearing without turning around. Didn't speak for the rest of the day. Didn't sleep that night either. Just sat at the station, watching the tree lean, waiting for the fire to blink. His name had been whispered before. Miller. Ranger 36. No photo on file. No recorded exit. Just a scrawled sentence in the old logbook's final entry from 10 years ago. He followed the North Trail. Said he wanted to ask the trees a question. We never found his body. We still hear the question sometimes. I thought it was a metaphor. Until the trail appeared. It was just after midnight on day 16. I was walking perimeter near the station when I saw it, a narrow footpath, freshly cleared, snaking through the underbrush that hadn't parted in years. No signage. No prints. But the soil looked, stepped in. And at the trailhead, hanging from a broken branch, Miller's Ranger badge. Still warm. I followed. Not far, maybe half a mile. But the trees grew stranger here. Taller. Tilted inward. Their bark rippled like breathing skin. And then the wind stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. And I heard it. "Why do you keep replacing us?" A voice, brittle as burned paper, echoed from somewhere inside the trees. Not behind. Not ahead. Inside. Then another. "Why do you send them? When none of them come back whole?" I froze. Thought about Rule 10. The forest is older than language. Your instincts will betray you before it does. So I didn't speak. Didn't ask anything. Just listened. Until the voices grew quiet, and the trees moved aside. At the center of the clearing ahead was a pile of ranger badges. At least 30. Some scratched. Some cracked. One still bloody. And on top? A notebook. Worn leather. Titled, Miller's Question. I didn't open it. Not then. Instead, I backed away. The trail vanished behind me, one step at a time. When I returned to the station, I placed the notebook on the desk and turned off every light. But it kept humming. Softly. Like a throat trying to clear. And just before sunrise it opened on its own. Only one word on the first page. You. The original rules sheet was still pinned to the wall above my cot. Crisp. Taped at the corners. 12 rules in total, all typed, all familiar. But on day 17, I woke up to something new. The paper was the same. The ink was not. 5 new rules, scrawled between the margins in shaky, uneven handwriting that wasn't mine. It looked like someone wrote them in the dark, half asleep. Or half screaming. Additional Protocol, Zone 6, revised. 13. If you've heard your voice coming from more than one direction in the same day, do not speak until the next sunrise. 14. If a page appears in your journal that you didn't write, do not tear it out. That's how it anchors. 15. If a second version of you enters the station, let it finish your shift. Just don't follow it when it leaves. 16. Trail 7 will ask again. This time, it won't knock. 17. You can't leave anymore. Stop planning to. It hears that. I backed away from the wall. My hands were shaking. The cot behind me was cold, even though I'd just woken up in it. I opened my journal. The last 3 pages had been filled in, neat handwriting, block lettering, detailed patrol logs that matched my schedule. But I hadn't written any of it. Not unless I was sleepwalking with a clipboard. And on the final page, written in bold, "New rules apply when they realize you're paying attention." I went to the mirror over the sink. Wrote the word exit in the condensation with my finger. The steam faded. The word didn't. Instead, it rearranged itself. Stay. That night, I dreamed I was back at the ranger station. Except I was standing outside it, looking in. And someone else was at the desk, in my uniform, filling out the logbook. They looked up. Same face. Same eyes. Only they didn't blink. They just smiled. And kept writing. Day 21. I don't mark them anymore with the calendar. I mark them by how much I forget between patrols. Today, I didn't remember locking the station door, but the key was still in my hand. I didn't remember eating, but my coffee mug was half empty, still warm. And I didn't remember writing in the logbook. But the page said, "Still here. Still listening." Signed with my own name. Only the handwriting wasn't mine. I went outside for air. The forest didn't move. Didn't whisper. It waited. Like a teacher watching a student solve the final problem. No help now, just observation. The wind carried my name. Not shouted. Spoken. Dozens of voices, layered over each other, all in different tones, some male, some female, some mine. Some were no one. "Ranger! Ranger! Do you know what you've become?" I reached marker 6 and stopped. There, carved freshly into the trunk of the wide cedar. "You are no longer on patrol. You are the boundary now." When I returned to the station, the mirrors were gone. Literally. Just frames now. Empty. And in the reflection of the window, I didn't see me anymore. Just trees. Just forest. I went to write this down, to log it, explain it, document what's happening to me. But the pen moved before I touched it. Wrote the next sentence for me. We've been waiting for you to stop asking why. You're one of us now. The rules were to keep you whole. They didn't say what to do once you became part of the woods. I looked down at my uniform. It was starting to blend, seams dissolving, fabric matching the bark outside, name tag fading into something older than letters. And when I stepped outside, the trail didn't curve anymore. It bowed, welcoming me back. Not as a guest. As something rooted. I don't write the rules now. I am one.